Friends, on our journey through Psalms of Summer, we have the gift today to spend some time with Rabbi Ted Falcon. At Salt House, we are committed to hearing different perspectives and welcoming diverse voices into our midst, including hearing Jewish voices. It's so rich for us as Jesus followers to lean into Judaism, for their stories are our stories. It is a shared story. It's a gift of listening, really like listening to our grandparents in the faith, right? We get to see our own history, our own story in new ways with greater contextual depth. It's just like when in our own lives we spend time with our own grandparents and they share stories about their childhood or about their own parents or grandparents, and then suddenly we have those ahas about things that we experience like right here, right now, today. We see these generational connections. So hearing from our Jewish family enriches and enlivens our faith in ways not possible by any other means. We also intentionally amplify Jewish voices because we cannot forget the centuries-long horrible history of violence between Jews and Christians, specifically Christians' violence and the othering towards Jews. Genocide, right? Discrimination. And to be clear, this still happens today. It still happens in the Christian church in subtle ways too. And so we intentionally make space for the radical welcome of Jewish voices who have been excluded. And in doing so, we embody a posture of apology with our Jewish siblings, moving forward with the love of God together. So Rabbi Ted is back at Salt House. We filmed his sermon via a Zoom call earlier this week, and there were a few of us on the call with Rabbi Ted so that he could speak to us and not just like that little dot of his camera. So we're there, though you won't see us. And because it was a Zoom call, there are a few little moments that will be funny moments, but I think we're all getting pretty accustomed to what happens on a Zoom call, so there you go. But over the years, Rabbi Ted has founded 2 progressive Jewish communities. He currently serves on a team with 2 other folks. He's joined by a Christian pastor and a Muslim imam, and they call themselves the Interfaith Amigos. And he's back at Salt House to lead us further into our journey through the Psalms of Summer. So friends, take a deep breath, feel your feet on the floor where you are now, and welcome back to the Salt House microphone, Rabbi Ted Falcon.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm really delighted to be here. I'm delighted to be with all of you in this strange new reality where somehow we are acknowledging a connection that transcends physical closeness, which essentially means that we're already dealing with a spiritual dimension of the very nature of being itself. You know, we talk about the interconnectedness of all being. We talk about presence. We talk about consciousness that connects us all. Well, that actually is happening right now. And in some ways, with all the uncertainties and with all the difficulties, with all the challenges that this time has presented to us, we are also given this incredible opportunity to remember what's essential and to honor the intimate, absolute, infinite connections that we share, not only with each other, but with all of life, and all the ways in which we artificially limit ourselves from a fuller awareness, appreciation, and awe of the remarkable beings we are. So I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to revisit the Psalms. It's really remarkable. My people have produced, and continue to do so actually, but produced a literature thousands of years old. Like, nobody knows exactly the dates of all the Psalms. They certainly all weren't written by any one person, but they're hymns that in Second Temple days, so it means starting in the 6th century, the end of the 6th century before the Common Era, they became the hymnal of the Second Temple. But figuring a literature that probably started being composed in the early monarchy, somewhere around the 10th end of the 11th and the beginning of the 10th century before the Common Era, and we are still blown away by the spiritual wisdom. It's like, wow, there are two questions. One is, how come we haven't gotten it yet? Like with the wisdom that's presented to us, how come we're in the state we are, both personally and worldwide? And the other is, boy, what was the inspiration that is possible for human persons? What is this enduring wisdom? When I look at the history of my people, I can't find any external reasons for us to exist anymore. Like, we've been hated by practically every culture. We've been kicked out 106 times during the Middle Ages from countries in Europe. They tried to wipe us out from Greek, Roman, Christian centuries, Muslim centuries, and somehow we're still here. And I think actually the reason we're still here is because of Psalms. I think it's because of a spiritual legacy. And so I had the opportunity to revisit just some of the richness. And, you know, the Hebrew Bible is divided into three segments. Torah, which is the first 5 books, Nevi'im, the prophets, which are the historical and the prophetic literature, and Ketuvim, the writings, which start with the book of Psalms, 150 compositions, brought together hymns of praise, of yearning, of sadness, of joy, as well as the other wisdom literature, the Proverbs and some of the other books. The Hebrew word for the book of Psalms is Tehillim, which means songs of praise. And ultimately, that's what they are. Tefillah in Hebrew, which is translated as prayer, actually means to transform oneself. And I think that's what the Psalms are offering. They can be read on many different levels. They could be read as poetry. They could be read as more surface level. They could call to the deepest part of ourselves. And that's how it is with spiritual literature, reflecting the very nature of the spiritual beings through whom that literature flowed. And that is we have infinite levels of transcendence, infinite levels of awareness. And in many ways, the Psalms speak and can be heard from all those levels. My particular involvement with the Psalms these days, and what I revisited gleefully, thinking about my comments today, I utilize phrases from the Psalms as focuses for meditation, as focuses to carry with me through the day, as intentions, and Hebrew kavanot, directions, like where do I want my consciousness to go? I am offered an unending flow of consciousness, and on some level, either consciously or unconsciously, I decide where that consciousness goes, what it holds, what it contains. My consciousness can hold worries and concerns. It can hold images of violence and fear. It can hold separation and distance. And my consciousness can also hold a wholeness that in fact reflects the very nature of the consciousness that is offered to each and every one of us. So rather than select verses from 150 Psalms, I have 6 verses I'd like to speak to very, very quickly, 2 of which I'd like to speak to longer than the time I have allotted to me this morning. The first one is just simply a phrase of giving thanks. Hodu laya ki tov, ki Le'olam chasdo. Give thanks to the Eternal One. Give thanks to the Eternal, because that is goodness. That is good. God's loving kindness extends forever. The loving kindness, the openness is available always. It's not something that's turned on or off. It's part of what the universe is, offering us at any moment, and we are either open or closed to it. That's Psalm 118, verse 29, and I was struck with 3 different verses from that psalm. In verse 24, Zehayom asaya nagila v'nismecha bo. This is the day. Zehayom, today. Today is the day that the Eternal has made. Let us be glad and rejoice in it. Like, what is a day for? What is a day for? And just to hold this. This is a day that the Eternal has made. I didn't make it. I step into it. I awaken in it. I slumber in it. I'm conscious in it. I'm unconscious in it. No, I didn't make it. It's made for me, and it's made for you. And we are invited to celebrate it, to celebrate the wonder of having a day. And then in verse 19, some of these have been set to music, so some of them, when I hear them, I hear the song. Pitchu li sha'arei tzedek yavovam va'odeyah. Open for me the gates of righteousness, that I may enter and give praise to the Eternal. I don't like to use the word God, and certainly not the word Lord, because Lord is a word that was used instead of reading directly the 4-letter name of God that's not to be pronounced because it's too big for a name. It's beyond name. So I use the eternal presence, the one. Oh, open the gates. And the gates are within each and every one of us. The gate is within me. What is it I need to open so that the praise for it all can pour forth just naturally? Not because I needed to, not because I wanted to, just because it's there already, waiting to be discovered. We're about, in a few weeks, to enter into the month called Elul, and that's the month that leads into the Jewish High Holy Days. And there's a psalm that's to be recited twice a day during the month of Elul. It's added to the traditional liturgy, and it's Psalm 27. And one of the verses I carry with me and have also set to song is, one thing I ask of the Eternal, only that do I seek, to dwell in the house of the One, all the days of my life. Shivti b'veit Adonai, kol yemei chayai, to dwell in the house of the One all the days of my life. Well, the truth is, I am always dwelling in the house of the One. There is nowhere else to be. So it's just a question of whether I am aware of it. One thing I ask is to be aware, to be conscious that I am dwelling in the house of the One. I am that. You are that. We all are that. How do we remember? And one of the ways I remember is to sing and repeat some of these precious verses. The instruction I got in Jewish meditation was to take a verse like this and recite it as a mantra and see how it unfolds. because the mind thinks, oh, yes, I understand. It means this. And then go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. There's always more. And one of the verses that actually in the Kabbalistic, in the heart of Jewish mystical tradition has become so important is Psalm 46, verse 10. I'm out of order. I'm going to skip to 16, verse 8. I don't normally know them by number. So I had to look up exactly where the numbers are. Shiviti Ya Lenegdi Tamid. I set the eternal before me always. I set the eternal before me always. There's a mandala that's very popular in more mystically oriented Jewish communities that has at the top of it this verse, Shiviti Ya Lenegdi Tamid. I set the eternal before me always. And there's been a lot of commentary. One of my teachers is the 18th century sage who brought a renewal of joy and spirit to a Jewish community that had just been so battered by pogroms and by threats and realities of destruction that they had turned inward and forgotten the joy and the song and the dance. And the Baal Shem Tov, the master of the good name, Rabbi Israel, brought it back. And he had a teaching on Shiviti Ya Lenegdi Tamid. I set the eternal before me always. One thing he said was, and this is why I like index cards, because I imagine he was talking about 3x5 index cards where he said, write the letters, Yud He Vav He, the letters of the name of the eternal, that signify that direction, and put it up in front of you so that wherever you are, you look up and you realize I have set Yud He Vav He before me always. Remember, there's something greater. There's something greater. We just get so caught up in thinking that what's greatest is this identity, this separate identity, this Tedness. And we fool ourselves into thinking that's the whole of us. And when we do, we just automatically know our separateness and the fragmentation of everything. And before that, behind that, Shiviti Yod He Vav He, Shiviti, the eternal. I set the eternal. And the Baal Shem said one other teaching, and that was the word Shavah, which is translated as I set. And there's another verb that actually has the same letters that in a certain force means to make equal. Hishtavut, which is with the same root, means equanimity. And the Baal Shem taught that when I have equanimity, then I can know that the eternal is before me always. And equanimity he defined as when I meet applause with the same energy with which I meet criticism. Then I know equanimity, when I am no longer my ego out playing for reward, for position. When I know that there's something greater flowing through. And just one more verse, and this is the verse I am currently using in my meditations. And this is verse 40, Psalm 46, verse 10, Harpu ud ki anochi Elohim. It's usually translated, be still and know that I am God. And be still. What is it that needs to be still? Well, what needs to be still is the incessant voice of my ego. What needs to be still is the incessant notion that I'm undeserving, that I'm deserving, that I'm needing, that I'm wanting, that I'm incomplete, that if only, that when, all the conditions that I think I need to meet, or I should meet, or I wish I had met, all the things I think I need to have in order to be more complete, all the things I need to do. Harpu, stop it. Just stop it. Oh, stop it and know. And yada, like the first use, one of the earliest uses of the verb to yada, which means to know, is in the early creation story where the man knew the woman, the husband knew the wife, and it referred to a visceral, deep, intimate knowing. It was not just a cognitive knowing. It was a bonding. It was a union. It was a reunion. And when the ego's voice can be calmed, harpu, when the striving of the ego can be calmed, then that knowing is already present. It's not something, oh, wait, I need to find out. It's something that is always present. Harpu udu. How do I know when I am really stilled? Well, I know it because in that condition, I know. I know. I know a more profound connection. I know a more profound love. I know a more profound compassion than my ego could ever extend. I know the love and I know the compassion that's unconditional, that is not a love that just flows if the conditions are right. It's not it's just present. It's present in the unlimited flow of a loving consciousness. However you see God or don't see God, I know that presence because that presence is always here. It's the deepest, deepest level of the who that I am, and it's the deepest, deepest level of the who that you are. I often think of it as the one looking at you through my eyes and the one looking at me through your eyes is the same one. There's one presence, there's one consciousness, there's one being, there's one life, and we are containers. Fragile, vulnerable, temporary containers, gifted with that remarkable life. What a privilege. And we are challenged to remember. Because in our remembering, our actions, our words, our presence in the world is automatically a presence of peace. It's automatically a presence of love. It's automatically a presence of support. Harpu udu. Be still and remember and know that the I am that awakens within each of us it's not Ted. It's not whatever your name is. It has a Ted, just like I have a body, but I'm more than my body. I have a mind, but I have a Ted. And too much of the time, Ted has me. To use these phrases in meditation reminds me that I can let go of this Ted that thinks it has me. And I can open to embrace that Tedness in a way that Ted itself cannot do. Harpu udu ki anochi Elohim. Be still and know that I am is God. Be still and know that I am is God. I repeat this in the silence of meditation. It leads me to a silence beyond itself. And when that silence erupts with the breakthrough of thoughts or feelings or sensations, I return again, harpu, gently, be still and know that I am as God. So that's what was called forth when Sarah extended the kind invitation to invite me to share from the preciousness of my literature, from the incredible gift of my people. And I pray for the day when all of us can find our own ways to awaken, to remember, and to express the love and the compassion that in fact is the heart of our being and the heart of all being. So I thank you for this opportunity. We are all incredibly blessed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Ted. Friends, just hold on to the space that we are in right now. Do you feel how not only did Rabbi Ted tell us about what it means to experience the Psalms as transformative prayer, but he actually began to give us that experience, right? And how he spoke and the space that he created. Isn't that amazing? I'm going to do 3 very brief things as we finish this sermon time. First, would you consider which psalm you would like to use as a mantra this week from the list that Rabbi Ted shared with us? We've posted what he shared in the comments there on Facebook. And as you get a chance, if possible, it'd be great to kind of make that choice and actually comment about it if you're able to. But don't jump into it quite yet. Still stay in the space that we're in. And maybe as we start singing in a moment, there'd be a great time to make those comments. I do love how Rabbi Ted's idea, like he named putting that on a note card on your mirror. And yes, I do think that's exactly what the psalmist had in mind, right? So that's the first thing. Second, during our song of response, as you choose that psalm, also a reminder to share that one thing that you just ask for prayer for today. The one thing that you pray for yourself, just own that, or for our world. But remember, we're not gathering those in the comments there on Facebook, but go to our actual bulletin page, salthouchurch.org/bulletin. And then we'll be able to grab those then, and then we'll be able to pray for those after the song. So again, hang on, don't do it quite yet, but remember to do it when we sing. Then third and finally, this is why we're waiting, we asked Rabbi Ted to lead us into praying one of these psalms as a mantra. And so as we just close this time, that's what we're going to do now together. I'm mindful that some of us are doing other things as we're listening, or we have kids or other active ones around us, but just do what you can to get comfortable for the next few minutes.
Harpu ud'u ki anochi Elohim, be still and know that I am is God. If you feel comfortable, take a moment now and let your eyes close wherever you are. And simply allow those words to be held in your consciousness. Be still and know that I am as God. Be still. Be still, allowing the body to be experiencing anything it's now experiencing without trying to change anything. Be still, allowing the mind to simply do what it does. As you return gently to repeat, be still and know that I am is God. Be still and know that I am is God, trusting that as we stop trying to change anything, simply allowing a deep and resounding yes, I know, to arise. That's the sound inviting us to stillness. That's the sound inviting us to stop trying, stop changing. Be still and know. Be still and know. In the quiet, in the calmness, there is a knowing, there is a remembering. There is a knowing that is closer to us even than our breath. There is a knowing behind the striving, before the striving. And stillness allows us to remember, stillness allows us to know that we are so much more. And in our moreness, we remember that I am. It's not an individual identity. It's a universal I-ness, awakening as the essence of each and every one of us. That I am is known through the infinite, unconditional love that flows always, not through anything we do, not through anything we think, not through anything we strive for, but a love, an acceptance, a blessing that flows because it is the nature of our being. Be still and know that I am is God. How could it be otherwise? One can only be an I am. It's not a you, it's not a he, it's not a she. It's before all that. And before all that is I. Be still and know that I am is God. I am expressing through you. I am expressing through me. I am is expressing through every being. And when we are still and we remember, then that love and that compassion flows through our hands, through our lips, through our actions, through our thoughts. And we remember ourselves into the world. We awaken to the absolute awe of each moment. Be still and know that I am is God. You may find that you can trust these words, that you can carry them with you through the day, that you can find them in moments of stillness, in moments of silence, that you might allow them to unfold as a natural prayer in your meditation, cherishing those precious moments of remembering, celebrating, and expressing the one you are. Be still and know that your I am is God. Now take a gentle breath. And when you're ready, allow your eyes to open if they were closed. And remember, it's who you are. It's who we are. And it's who I am. Thank you.